Let's welcome in basketball analyst, friend of the program, Chiney Ogwumike. Chiney, LA entered Denver with losses in 5 of the last 7. They were down by as many as 16 points here. And then they tied their biggest comeback win of the season. What to you was most encouraging about the Lakers' win tonight in Denver?
So, Phil, when most players step onto the court before a game, they say one thing: lock in. And LeBron James and Luka Doncic down the stretch were absolutely locked in. Now, they are the Lakers' 25th in defensive efficiency, which is horrible. But in that fourth quarter, they locked in. I saw on this play, look at LeBron James moving those puppies, like Turk would say, and just hounding at the top of the key. That's the ultimate level of commitment. But also, that energy translated to the other side. Luka was masterful, but I want to focus on the 13 rebounds. That's what he can do to try to help them on both ends of the floor. But this play had me screaming at my TV, had me just going crazy, had me off of the couch. LeBron James with the dagger at 41 and the dunk. To me, this is a team that is committed to right the wrongs of the first half of the season, get better defensively, but it's easier said than done. But this was a good step, first step in the right direction.
And the other side of the coin, it's Denver's 4th blown lead this season of at least 15 points. That's a conversation, though, for another day, Chiney, because we had an A-list gathering
in the second half, particularly third quarter. I think they scored 30, 37 or something in the first quarter, 34 or something, whatever. That total for 71, but only 36, I think, 34 in that second half. They were tracking that. And I think they got their rotations down. The communication was better. They didn't get as many open, uncontested shots, and then they didn't get second shots. And that was the key to playing good defense. 24 seconds, and then securing the ball, getting out with a little hasty self.
I think for me, it was the bench. You know, we always talk about the starters so much, and we talk about the lack of scoring that we get from the bench. Tonight, the bench had 32 compared to their 20, and that's the key, especially with Jackson Hayes being a plus 16. That's amazing. And for me, when you always talk about the superstars, they're going to do their thing, but this road trip, it's going to be all about their bench, too. If the bench is able to step up and knock down some big shots. With Ayton going out, I thought what Jackson Hayes was able to do was key for the Lakers to get that victory. And, you think about it, 17-16 in the second half, that's huge.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Rob. We'll get into the role players in a moment. Of course, the 2 stars did their thing. We'll get into them. But let's start with that third quarter run. Big game. Listen, at the end of the first half, it was a 14-3 and an 8-0 run by Denver to go up 14. Jamal Murray hits a 60-footer. Lakers came out in that third quarter. They changed the way they played D, and look at it right there, 29-17. They were 13 of 22. They held Denver to 7 of 21, just 1 of 7 from 3 after they hit 9 in the first quarter, in 12 at halftime, and they out-rebounded them by 6. You see it right there. The numbers don't lie. That's where the Lakers got back in this game.
Well, you're going to have games. You're going to have halves like that where teams are just scorching hot. And a lot of times, you just can't do anything about it except try to get to the shots and not let them be uncontested. I thought in the second half, obviously they're a little colder, but I thought the defense, and this right here, put a lot of pressure on their defense. They were just force them into some tougher shots, and then they were able to get out on the break. I thought, like Rob said, the role player, especially Timmy, I'm starting to love this kid.
Yeah, me too.
He comes in, plays fundamentally sound, 9 points, and in the second half, they just were connected together defensively, and they put up a resistance for Denver. They didn't get the easy shots. They were a little bit more physical. I thought Marcus Band, all those guys coming in with a little perimeter defense, and they didn't get as easy targets.
For me, it's the way you approach the game. Their approach in the first half was like, we playing good defense, but they were still knocking down shots. And it says sometimes when you're shooting the ball that good, it's hard to continue in the second half because if you look at the difference, they had a lot of role players knocking down shots. You had Jones, you had Pickett, all these guys were knocking down shots. But in the second half, it went away. Because reality sets in. You was playing with house money in the first half, but in the second half is when reality check and say, we got to lock in on this guy. The defense is a little tighter. What are you going to do under this pressure? Are you able to withstand this lead? And they weren't. And I just really appreciate how, the Lakers didn't say, panic. Mm-hmm. They realized, man, this is going to happen again when guys get hot. Just not let it continue in the second half.
Rob, the reason why I mentioned that hard-fought battle, and Stu and Billy mentioned this as well, the Lakers did not have a lead until they got into that fourth quarter. And they had about, I think we were right, it was about 4 chances to get it. They still didn't get it, but they stayed true to what they were doing, kept getting rebounds, kept attacking. Once they took the lead, they never let it go. They outscored Denver by 10 in that fourth.
Yeah, taking a lead and with keeping that lead is so important. I just was sitting there watching the Purdue and UCLA game, had back and forth. But this game, once the Lakers say, okay, it's our lead, we're going to take this lead, we're going to hold it. And I think when you watch these guys play defense, they will lock in. And one of the things that I was taught is like you contest all shots. So I think every three that the Denver Nuggets took, it was contested shots. It was somewhere at some point it was getting out there. Usually Jamal Murray in the fourth quarter, he's a Laker killer, but he wasn't able to do his thing in the fourth quarter because of guys like Jackson Hayes when he switched out, because of Smart being on him, because of that tenacity that you do defensively, locked in. You know what was really shocking to me though, and I appreciate it? Usually when you hit a big shot like they did at the end of the quarter, end of the half, it kind of demoralizes the team.
I'm glad the half was over.
Yeah.
Because they came out cold.
They came out like, okay, we ready. And, it was just, you really have to applaud the way the Lakers played defensively. I know everybody wants to talk about the offense, but the whole team at 107 in their building, it shows you they were really locked in.
So LeBron was 19, 9, and 8 tonight, 8 of 15, over 50%. And Luka, who we'll talk about now, James, listen, you said it when we were watching the game in the first quarter. He's on a mission tonight. He had 16 first quarter points. He ends up with 38 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. He was 11 of 12 from the free throw line. And he had his 52nd 30-point triple-double to move one ahead of Jokic. The Big O obviously still in the lead. 106 of those. Luka, his 87th overall triple-double, 7th most all-time. He was magnificent.
You could tell from the beginning that he was not going to be playing around in Denver. He was aggressive. He was, very aggressive, as I said, getting to the cup, looking for his shots, looking to draw fouls, and he just wanted to get the team going. But Denver was so hot, but it didn't really, match to a lead. But Gator, he just continues to just light it up. I mean, tonight I thought he was really aggressive, trying to get to the bucket, trying to get some points in there early, and then he got the assist.
Yeah, thinking 38 points, 35 minutes on the 21 shots. That was very efficient. He made his buckets at the free throw line, which was really important, 11 for 12. And when Luke was able to play like that, you always I love to look at the number of shots a guy's taking versus the number of points. If you shooting more shots than you got points, it's a problem. But when you look at the way Luka now, he shot over 50%, so I'm happy with that. That's the key. When you take as many shots as a lot of players do, and you don't shoot 50%, I'm having a problem with that. But he shot 50%. He carried the team. He got guys involved because that shows that with the triple-double. He was boxing out. And think about it, Luka almost played a perfect game. Except for one thing, that tech. Come on, Luka, you got 13
got 13
techs. You got 13 techs, you only get 3 more. So you got to be careful.
It got there quick.
Yes.
It got there quick. I'm glad you mentioned Drew Timme. He had 9. Rui had 9. You guys both mentioned him. Yeah. Gabe Vincent added 5. Rui with 9 off the bench. And then you got to throw Marcus Smart into that. 15 points. That's 47 points between those 5 guys. Vando did it on the defensive end as well. So Marcus Smart, a couple of huge threes, took a charge. Really nice job. So LeBron talked about a lot there. Big game opening up about what the team needed to do, turning up the pressure, especially the ball pressure, what they did on Jamal Murray, and also gave a lot of props to the bench unit, and also talked about greatness in this league and what it takes. And he showed it again tonight.
What he just described is leadership. He's at that point now where he knows how to win, he knows how to play, and he's looking to encourage his teammates. And tonight was a game that they needed after the win the other night against Toronto. So he just set the tone. I mean, he's a tone setter, and he knows how to do it. He knows how to stay out of the way when he has to and let Rui and other guys get involved. And he also knows when he can, make his point on the court, and he did that tonight. Some fast breaks when he gets the rebound and making the right pass, shooting threes, and just putting pressure on the defense, and then recognizing those that, made big contributions. Timme, Hayes, those guys off the bench.
For me, it's all about recognizing the mismatch. Every time he did something, he recognized the mismatch, went to the hole. What I always like about LeBron and what he got in trouble for is sharing the basketball. I've never seen anybody get in trouble for sharing the basketball. That's why you have teammates. He's so good at finding people in the corner. It's not like, catch, think about it. Do I have the shot? Do I make a move? No, he sees the play. It's all either he sees the hockey assist or he gets the assist himself. And for me, that's how you have to play basketball. He plays it the right way each and every night. And think about it. He plays so hard still at the number of years he's been in the league. 23. He plays so hard at being his age.
Let's check out the Lakers calendar taking on the Clippers at the Intuit Dome on Thursday. That is on Prime, but we'll have the pre and post for you. And then it's the Mavericks on ABC on Saturday. We'll have the pre and post for you. And then the rest are on Spectrum Sportsnet. You got the Bulls 2 days later. Always a day between, you see here. The Cavs and then the Wizards as this 8-game road trip continues. Good start, though, Rob.
Great start.
Lakers are 1-0 before the Clipper game, and you're breaking down some Luka Doncic.
Yeah, this is going to be Luka, and it's going to be something in there that really impressed me about Luka, and I'm not talking about scoring. You just got to watch and tune in and wait to see this. On this offensive possession here, you see Luka. He has the ability to take this guy who's a smaller guy, Murray, who's not known for his defense, but Murray kind of keeps him out beyond the three-point line. But you see, okay, what are you going to do? Man down, hand down, I'm going to shoot this J. Now he's off to the races. When Luka's able to shoot his threes like that, it sets up a lot of other things. This is the most craziest possession ever. Look at the Denver Nuggets defense play. Nobody moves. And you know Luka's the best player in the offensive player in the game, and nobody tries to help out. Just has a lane wide open. Now, this is the best part. Now, Luka understanding the defense. You got a little on Jackson Hayes. The little's not used to guarding the live guy. He just looks around like, which way did he go? Now this is the play I'm talking about. This is a great Luka defense. Usually Luka just stands up, right? He's engaged. He goes for this live because LeBron plays in front, which is a great opportunity. But this is the funny part. LeBron is so old school, he's expecting Les Rave to go to the basketball layup, but Ray runs to the three-point line. But it sets it up for Luka, who comes off a screen without the ball and knocks down a three. When you set up like that, it's fantastic. But I thought that was so great when Luka was understanding LeBron's communication. He says, I'm a front this, and everybody knows that, that's a former slam dunk champion right there. And he picks it off and starts a fast break.
Yeah, that's a good breakdown, Rob. Shows the versatility and how Luka just kind of knows his teammates and knows their tendencies and gets in the right spots. And I just thought the fourth quarter, I think the connection defensively, even Luka, he's not a great one-on-one player, but his defense is decent. He gambles a lot. It's good deflection, so it's a good win. They got Toronto. They got this team tonight. They got Denver tonight. They got the Clippers.
2 good wins.
This is good trend. Just keep it going. Good communication and keep this defense going.
After struggling in those 5 games against the teams under 500, they now beat 2 teams that are considered good teams and playoff teams, so it's good. Clippers had lost 6 in a row. They had 6 wins. They were at the bottom of the standings. Since that time, they've won 13 games, and they've climbed all the way up into the play-in. They did lose tonight in Chicago, Rob. Kawhi set out a couple of games. He'll be ready to go, but they've been playing great basketball.
Yeah, they've been playing really good basketball. You think about when you took teams that are hurt, teams that are old, first team that comes to mind is the Clippers. But some way, somehow, Ty Lue got those guys playing young. They're playing inspired. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup.
Your boy Ty Lue.
Yep, my boy Ty Lue. He got him playing good, though.
Yeah, I mean, look, did they get Zubac back from the injury? Kawhi is
he's really turned back the clock.
Really turned back the clock, Geeter. And the rest of the crew, the supporting cast, they've always been a solid basketball team. And Lou seems to get the best out of all of them, especially some of the role players.
Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Shooting some threes.
Yeah, Brook Lopez, I think the biggest key for Brook was when Zubac got hurt, he would get some consistent minutes.
It also spread the floor for them.
Yeah, he knocked the rust off, and now he's playing pretty decent basketball.
Yeah, that was a fun win tonight, gentlemen.
Is anyone really surprised that the Lakers are once again at the center of the NBA universe, dominating headlines and controlling narratives while other franchises desperately scramble for even a fraction of the attention and relevance that Los Angeles commands on a daily basis without even trying? Does it shock anyone that when the league needs drama, storylines, and actual basketball substance that matters beyond hollow statistical achievements, all roads inevitably lead back to Los Angeles? Back to the purple and gold, back to the franchise that has defined excellence in professional basketball for over 7 decades, while other organizations desperately scramble for attention and pray their mediocre moves make headlines for more than 5 minutes before being forgotten in the endless news cycle. The Lakers organization continues to operate on a completely different stratosphere, a realm where championship aspirations aren't just empty talking points used to sell season tickets, but actual expectations rooted in decades of unparalleled excellence, success, and a winning culture that has been cultivated and perfected through generations of brilliant front office leadership and uncompromising standards. But here's what really gets me. And I think anyone paying attention should ask themselves this question too. When did the rest of the NBA become so comfortable with mediocrity that they view the Lakers' pursuit of greatness as somehow arrogant or excessive? As if wanting to win championships and refusing to settle for anything less is some kind of character flaw rather than the exact mentality that separates dynasties from doormat franchises that celebrate winning 35 games like they've accomplished something worth remembering. The Lakers aren't just making moves. They're crafting a masterpiece while their rivals are still figuring out how to hold the paintbrush. Still trying to understand the basic fundamentals of organizational excellence that Los Angeles mastered before most current general managers were even born. And before we dive deep into the Lakers' brilliant maneuvering that has once again positioned them as the smartest organization in professional basketball, do me a favor and smash that like button, because apparently we're the only ones willing to tell you the truth about what's really happening in this league without sugarcoating it for the feelings of fan bases that haven't sniffed a championship parade in decades, fan bases that have become so accustomed to failure that they've actually convinced themselves that first-round playoff exits represent progress and should be celebrated with the same enthusiasm that Lakers fans reserve for actual championship banners. The Lakers just pulled off what might be the steal of the century by signing an absolute monster from the G League to a two-way contract. And honestly, it's almost embarrassing for the rest of the league when you really stop and think about the sheer incompetence this exposes. Here's a player who was averaging 25 points per game in the G, absolutely dominating that level of competition. Like it was a recreational pickup game at the local YMCA on a Tuesday afternoon, showing skills and abilities that should have had every single NBA franchise with any legitimate scouting and infrastructure pounding down doors to sign him immediately. And yet somehow, in a league where teams employ dozens of scouts, spend millions on analytics departments, and constantly talk about finding hidden gems and undervalued talent, 29 other NBA franchises with their supposedly elite scouting department, their state-of-the-art analytics teams, and their billion-dollar resources just collectively decided to ignore this gem sitting right in front of their faces, available for anyone with even basic basketball competence to identify and acquire. The level of organizational malpractice this represents across the league is actually staggering when you consider how much these franchises spend on talent evaluation, how much they invest in personnel departments, and how often they stand at podiums during press conferences talking about their commitment to finding and developing young talent. Yet here was a player producing at an elite level in their own developmental league, and somehow only the Lakers had the vision, the competence, and the basketball intelligence to recognize what was right in front of everyone's eyes. In his very first start with the Lakers, this undrafted sensation dropped 21 points and immediately showed why Los Angeles has always had that special ability to identify talent that everyone else is too blind or too stupid to recognize. Why the Lakers continue to find ways to add valuable contributors to their roster while other teams are still running the same failed organizational playbooks that have kept them mediocre for decades. While teams like the Pistons, the Hornets, and the Wizards continue their annual tradition of wasting lottery picks on players who will be out of the league in 3 years, investing top 5 picks in guys who can't shoot, can't defend, and don't have the basketball IQ to succeed at the NBA level. The Lakers are out here finding future contributors without spending a single draft asset, without mortgaging any part of their future. Just pure organizational excellence and scouting superiority, doing what it does best. The efficiency with which this player has adapted to the NBA game. The basketball IQ he demonstrates on both ends of the floor. The sheer audacity of excellence he brings every single night. It's almost unfair how much better the Lakers are at this talent identification and development process than everyone else. How they can find rotation players and legitimate contributors in places where other teams can't even find guys worthy of garbage time minutes. And you know what I find particularly amusing about this entire situation? What really makes me laugh every single time I think about it? These same analysts and talking heads who spent all summer questioning Rob Pelinka's comments, writing articles about how the Lakers were mismanaged and directionless, appearing on television shows to explain why Los Angeles had lost their way and needed to completely rebuild their front office structure, are now scrambling to explain how the Lakers managed to find another valuable piece while their favorite teams, the ones they constantly defend and make excuses for, are still trying to figure out what a winning culture looks like. Still trying to understand the basic principles of roster construction that the Lakers mastered decades ago. This isn't luck. This isn't some kind of fortunate accident or random occurrence that fell into the Lakers' lap through no effort of their own. This is organizational superiority, period. This is what happens when you have people making decisions who actually understand basketball at a level that most front offices can only dream about. This is the natural result of having standards, having a proven process, and refusing to accept mediocrity at any level of your organization. Now let's talk about this absolutely fascinating situation with Rich Paul publicly suggesting, no, actually demanding that the Lakers should consider trading a certain star guard. And I have to wonder if we're witnessing one of the most spectacular cases of an agent getting a bit too comfortable with his own influence, forgetting exactly where his power came from and who helped build the empire he currently enjoys. Rich Paul, whose entire empire was built on the back of his most famous client wearing purple and gold, whose reputation and influence in NBA circles stems directly from his association with Lakers greatness, suddenly thinks he can dictate roster construction to an organization that has won 17 championships, that has navigated countless negotiations with countless agents over decades, that has seen every tactic and heard every threat and still managed to maintain their competitive excellence. Through it all, the audacity is almost respectable in a twisted sort of way. I'll give him that. Because it takes a special kind of confidence or perhaps delusion to think you can strong-arm an organization with the history, the prestige, and the leverage that the Lakers possess in literally every negotiation they enter. Here's what makes this whole situation so deliciously ironic and frankly entertaining to watch unfold. The Lakers are actually in a position where they don't have to cave to agent pressure because, unlike certain franchises that shall remain nameless, but we all know who they are, the ones that bend over backwards to accommodate every agent demand because they're so desperate for any semblance of relevance that they'll compromise their organizational integrity for a chance to make the playoffs. The Lakers have leverage, they have options, and most importantly, they have a clear vision for sustained success that doesn't require them to make panic moves based on podcast comments. When your organization has the prestige that comes with 17 championship banners hanging in the rafters, when you have the market advantage of being located in Los Angeles where players actually want to live and play, when you have the winning tradition that spans generations and includes some of the greatest players in basketball history, agents can make all the podcast appearances they want. They can issue all the veiled threats they want. They can try every negotiating tactic in their playbook. But at the end of the day, the Lakers hold the cards. The Lakers control the situation. And the Lakers will make whatever decision serves their championship aspirations rather than whatever decision makes an agent happy. And let's be completely honest about what's really happening here beneath all the public posturing and media narratives. This is a calculated negotiation tactic that probably works wonders on teams desperate for relevance, on franchises that are so starved for talent and so afraid of losing anyone with even marginal ability that they'll cave to almost any demand just to avoid the optics of a player wanting out. But the Lakers, they've seen every trick in the book. They've encountered every negotiating ploy imaginable. They've dealt with agents far more powerful and influential than Rich Paul trying similar tactics. And frankly, they invented half of these strategies themselves over decades of operating at the highest level of professional sports management. The Lakers front office clashing with an agent who's overplaying his hand is basically a masterclass in organizational strength. A demonstration of what it looks like when a franchise has enough confidence in their own value and their own processes that they don't feel the need to bend to external pressure. And I personally love watching him stand firm while maintaining complete professional composure, not getting drawn into public spats or media wars, just quietly and confidently handling their business the way championship organizations do. Everyone wants to talk about the Lakers rejecting a $5 million extension offer as if it's some kind of catastrophic mistake or organizational chaos, as if this decision represents dysfunction or panic or some fundamental misunderstanding of the player's value. But let me offer a different perspective that actually requires understanding how championship franchises operate rather than just recycling the same tired narratives that lazy analysts use to fill air. This isn't panic. This isn't dysfunction. This isn't some desperate scramble by a front office that doesn't know what it's doing. This is the Lakers making a calculated power play that demonstrates exactly why they've maintained their elite status for over half a century, while other franchises have come and gone through multiple ownership groups, multiple front office regimes, and multiple failed rebuilds without ever achieving even a fraction of the Lakers' sustained success. Think about it logically for just 1 second instead of immediately jumping to the predetermined conclusion that anything the Lakers do must be wrong, because that's what generates clicks and television ratings. The player in question is heading toward free agency, and while other teams are already preparing their maximum contract pitches, already having their accountants run the numbers and their executives practiced their recruitment presentation. Teams like the Utah Jazz, who are always trying to overpay for Lakers, leftovers in a desperate attempt to convince themselves that throwing money at former Lakers players somehow makes them contenders by association. Los Angeles is playing chess while everyone else is still learning checkers. Still trying to figure out the basic rules while the Lakers are already seeing moves and counter moves several steps ahead. By not extending now, the Lakers maintain maximum flexibility. They avoid potential bad money that could hamstring their future maneuverability, and they preserve their ability to make bigger moves at the deadline or in free agency. Moves that might not be possible if they've already committed significant salary to an extension. That might not age well or might not fit their evolving roster construction plans. The Jazz can prepare all the maximum contracts they want. They can have their ownership group approve whatever obscene amounts of money they think will be necessary to lure a player away from Los Angeles. They can dream about finally being relevant for the first time since the Karl Malone and John Stockton era ended without a championship. But we've seen this movie before, and we know exactly how it ends. Remember when everyone thought the Lakers were finished after losing certain free agents? When the narratives were all about how Los Angeles had lost their appeal, how players didn't want to deal with the pressure and expectations anymore, how small market teams were going to dominate the new era of player movement. How did that work out exactly? The Lakers rebuilt, they retooled, they adjusted their strategy and their approach, and they won another championship while those other franchises are still searching for their first taste of relevance in the modern era. Still trying to figure out how to build something sustainable while the Lakers have been doing it for generations. The Lakers don't panic. They don't make emotional decisions based on media pressure or fan anxiety. They plan, they strategize, they think long-term while maintaining short-term competitiveness. And this extension situation is just another example of why trusting their process has yielded more success than the entire history of most franchises combined. Why betting against the Lakers has historically been one of the worst wagers anyone could make in professional sport. What really makes me laugh? What genuinely amuses me every time I see another think piece or hear another podcast discussion about this situation is the fake concern from media members who desperately want this to be a crisis, who need this to be a disaster because Lakers dysfunction generates so much more engagement than Lakers competence. Oh no, the Lakers might lose a player to free agency, as if this represents some unprecedented catastrophe that the organization has never navigated before, as if the Lakers haven't been the premier free agent destination for literally decades, as if players don't still dream about wearing that purple and gold regardless of what market size advantages or salary cap gymnastics other teams try to deploy, as if being a Laker isn't worth more in terms of legacy, exposure, endorsement, opportunities, and competitive chances than whatever inflated contracts some desperate small market team is willing to throw around in a futile attempt to buy relevance they can't earn through competent management. The history of the NBA is littered with examples of teams overpaying for Lakers cap, handing out massive contracts to players who had success in Los Angeles and then immediately regressed when they left the Lakers. Organizational infrastructure, the Lakers coaching, the Lakers winning culture, and yet somehow these same franchises keep making the same mistakes, keep convincing themselves that this time will be different, keep ignoring the overwhelming evidence that Lakers' success is about more than just individual talent. Now we're getting to the really juicy part of this entire situation. The part that really demonstrates the Lakers' organizational superiority and their consistent ability to capitalize on other franchises' dysfunction. The Indiana Pacers have reportedly placed an all-star caliber wing on the trade block, and naturally, because the basketball gods have a sense of humor and justice and appreciate organizational excellence, even if ESPN executives and Reddit commenters don't, the Lakers are positioned perfectly to capitalize on yet another franchise's complete inability to manage their roster, their expectations, and their competitive timeline. The Pacers are seeking a center in return, and wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't it just be the most perfectly Lakers thing imaginable? The Lakers happen to have exactly what Indiana needs while also having the most attractive overall package available. The best combination of talent, contracts, and future assets that any team could reasonably offer in this specific trade scenario. This is what happens when you run an organization with actual competence and foresight rather than just reactive decision-making and panic moves. This is what happens when you have a clear organizational philosophy. and stick to it, even when media members question every decision. While the Pacers are publicly shopping their best players, which is always a tremendous look, by the way, really instills confidence in your fan base and sends a great message to every current and future player about organizational loyalty and commitment. The Lakers are sitting pretty with assets that multiple teams desperately want, with the exact pieces that Indiana needs to make their trade work. And with the leverage that comes from being the Lakers, from being the destination that players actually want to play for rather than the franchise they're trying to escape. The leverage here is absolutely hilarious when you really think about the power dynamics at play. Indiana needs to make a move because their current construction isn't working, and they know it. They've admitted it publicly by putting their all-star on the trade block. The Lakers have what they want. They have the pieces that make this trade possible. And Los Angeles can basically name their price, can structure the deal in whatever way best serves their interests, while other teams can only dream about being in position to acquire this kind of talent, can only fantasize about having the assets and the appeal necessary to make these kinds of franchise-altering moves. And here's where the Lakers' genius really shines through, where their organizational philosophy and long-term thinking really separates them from every other franchise in professional basketball. They're not desperate. They don't have to make this trade. They're not backed into any corner or facing any existential crisis that requires immediate action regardless of the cost. They're already a competitive team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis leading the charge, two legitimate superstars, two players who can dominate games and carry a team deep into the playoffs when properly supported. Any move they make is about optimization and championship ceiling, about taking an already good team and making it great, about maximizing their title window rather than just trying to achieve basic competitiveness or relevance, like so many other franchises are trying to do. That's the difference between a franchise that expects championships because they've won 17 of them and know exactly what it takes versus franchises that celebrate. Making the play-in tournament like it's a parade-worthy achievement, like finishing with a 500 record and barely qualifying for the playoffs represents some kind of organizational triumph worthy of extension celebrations and victory lap. The best part about this entire situation, the part that will be absolutely delicious to watch unfold over the coming weeks when the Lakers eventually complete this acquisition, because let's be completely honest with ourselves. Players want to come to Los Angeles, not Indiana. Players want to compete for championships under the bright lights with national television coverage rather than toil away in relative obscurity hoping that maybe twice a season their games will be nationally televised. The same media members who questioned every single move the Lakers made, who wrote articles about their dysfunction and their questionable decisions and their aging roster, will suddenly discover their amnesia and pretend they saw it coming all along. Will act like this was the obvious move that anyone could have predicted. Will somehow find a way to either downplay the Lakers' accomplishment or immediately pivot to explaining why it still won't be enough. The Lakers' ability to consistently capitalize on other teams' mistakes while maintaining their own organizational stability, their capacity to turn other franchises' failures into their own opportunities for improvement, their consistent success in identifying undervalued assets and structuring deals that serve both their immediate and long-term interests. This is just another day at the office for the gold standard franchise of professional basketball. This is what happens when you have standards and refuse to compromise them regardless of media pressure or public opinion. If there's one area where even I, as someone who clearly sees the Lakers' organizational superiority and has no problem defending their decisions against lazy criticism, have to acknowledge some room for improvement. It's on the defensive end of the floor where the team has genuinely struggled at various points this season. The scouting department pushing for the immediate acquisition of a defensive specialist isn't a sign of panic or crisis. Isn't evidence of a front office that doesn't know what it's doing or has lost control of the situation. It's actually evidence of an organization that identifies problems early and solves them before they become catastrophic, before they derail an entire season. Unlike certain franchises that wait until their season is already circling the drain, until they're mathematically eliminated from playoff contention before making obvious changes that any competent observer could have identified months earlier. The Lakers don't wait for disasters. They anticipate problems. They recognize trends before they become insurmountable obstacles. And they take proactive steps to address weaknesses while they're still manageable rather than waiting until it's too late to salvage. Anything from the season, the Lakers' defensive struggles have been documented extensively, analyzed to death by every talking head with a microphone and every blogger with an internet connection. And honestly, probably exaggerated by people who desperately want to find flaws in an otherwise well-constructed roster. People who need the Lakers to have problems because Lakers' success is boring to them, because it's expected, because it doesn't generate the same engagement as Lakers struggles with. But here's what those critics conveniently forget to mention in their endless analyses of the Lakers' defensive metrics. Here's what gets left out of all those segments about points allowed per possession. The Lakers are actively working to address this issue while maintaining their offensive firepower and championship infrastructure, while keeping intact all the elements that make them dangerous and competitive. They're not tearing everything down. They're not hitting the panic button and making desperate moves that mortgage the future for marginal present improvements. They're not overreacting to small sample sizes or allowing temporary struggles to dictate long-term strategy. They're making surgical improvements the way championship organizations do, identifying specific needs and addressing them with precision rather than blowing up everything and starting over. And let me just say this because it needs to be said, and apparently nobody else will say it. The fact that the Lakers can identify a defensive weakness and immediately have multiple pathways to correct it, whether through their G League discovery, who has shown defensive versatility beyond his offensive production, through the potential Pacers trade that could bring in a two-way player who addresses needs on both ends, or through signing a defensive specialist who can provide exactly what they need in specific matchups and situations. This is a luxury that most franchises can only dream about. This is organizational depth and competence that the vast majority of teams simply don't possess. Most teams in this league can't even properly diagnose their problem, can't identify what's actually wrong versus what's just statistical noise. They make changes for the sake of making changes. They panic at the first sign of adversity, they let media narratives dictate their roster decisions, and then they wonder why year after year they remain stuck in mediocrity while the Lakers continue competing at the highest level. But that's the Lakers' difference. That's the organizational excellence that comes from decades of championship experience. That's why they've won 17 championships while other franchises are still celebrating their first playoff series victory in 20 years like it's the accomplishment of the century, like winning 4 games in a row against another team represents some kind of organizational pinnacle that deserves banner recognition. The two-way contract signing that could solve their biggest roster weakness is exactly the kind of smart, low-risk, high-reward move that exemplifies everything that makes Lakers basketball special. Everything that separates championship organizations from pretenders who talk about championships but don't actually understand what it takes to build and maintain a championship culture. No massive contract commitments that limit future flexibility, no surrendering of future draft assets that could be valuable down the line, no mortgage to future desperation moves that look good in headlines but terrible in hindsight. Just intelligent roster construction that maximizes value and addresses needs within a sustainable framework that allows for continued improvement and adaptation. This is apparently revolutionary stuff for a league where most general managers think the solution to every problem is overpaying in free agency and hoping for the best, throwing money at players and praying that somehow the talent will just magically coalesce into winning basketball despite no coherent plan or organizational philosophy. Reports indicate that the Lakers front office has received a trade package offer that changes everything, that fundamentally alters the calculations and possibilities for how this season might unfold. And while I don't have the specific details because these are legitimate organizational secrets that aren't just leaked to every media member looking for content, I can tell you exactly how this plays out because we've seen this script before. We've watched the Lakers navigate these situations countless times over the years. The Lakers will evaluate every option with their typical thorough, methodical approach. They'll run their analysis and consult their scouts and weigh every variable. They'll leverage their position to extract maximum value from any potential deal, ensuring that whatever they give up is less valuable than what they receive. And they'll ultimately make whatever decision best serves their championship aspirations, not their media perception, not their short-term win-loss record in January, not the immediate emotional satisfaction of making a move just to be doing something, but their ultimate goal of hanging another championship banner in the rafter, of adding number 80 to the collection, of maintaining their position as the most successful franchise in NBA history. This is what drives the haters absolutely insane, what keeps them up at night, frustrated and angry. The Lakers don't make moves to appease talking heads or to generate temporary excitement among casual fans who will forget about it in 2 weeks. Every decision is calculated within the framework of championship sustainability, within the context of what gives them the best chance to compete not just this year but next year and the year after that. What allows them to maintain their competitive window for as long as possible while their core stars are still performing at elite levels, while other teams are mortgaging their entire future, trading away unprotected first-round picks, extending years into future. all for one playoff appearance or one chance at maybe winning a round or two before getting eliminated, the Lakers are thinking 3 steps ahead, 5 years into the future, considering how every move impacts not just their immediate roster but their long-term flexibility and their ability to continue competing at the highest level year after year after year. The deadline is approaching, and the Lakers are in their element. This is where they thrive. This is the environment where their organizational excellence really shines through, weighing franchise-altering possibilities while maintaining leverage, keeping their options open while other teams show all their cards, maintaining optionality in a league where most franchises panic and make obvious desperation moves, maintaining organizational composure while other front offices are leaking information to media members trying to generate pressure or create artificial deadlines. This is where greatness separates itself from mediocrity, where championship organizations distinguish themselves from the pretenders. Lesser franchises would already be panicking, making desperate moves just to be seen doing something, showing their cards to anyone who listened because they don't have the confidence or the leverage to play things close to the vest. But the Lakers, they're playing poker at a table full of people playing checkers. They're operating at a completely different level of strategic thinking and execution. At the end of the day, what we're witnessing is simply the Lakers being the Lakers, operating at a level that most franchises can't even comprehend, let alone replicate, demonstrating once again why they remain the gold standard of professional basketball despite constant attempts to diminish their achievements or predict their downfall. From finding hidden gems in the G League that every other team missed to navigating complex agent politics with confidence and composure, from making shrewd financial decisions that preserve future flexibility to positioning themselves for blockbuster trades that could define their championship chances. The Lakers are conducting a symphony while their rivals are still learning to play their instruments, still trying to figure out how to read sheet music while Los Angeles is already performing at Carnegie Hall. So when people ask me if I'm worried about the Lakers, if I'm concerned about this situation or that rumor or whatever the current media narrative happens to be this week, I just laugh, because the Lakers have earned the benefit of the doubt through decades of excellence, through 17 championships that speak louder than any critic's opinion, through consistent relevance in an era where most teams can't maintain competitiveness for more than a 3-year window before they have to rebuild or retool or blow it all up and start over. They've proven that their way works, that their organizational philosophy produces results, that their standards and their processes lead to sustained success, and that betting against them is historically a losing proposition that has cost countless analysts and commentators their credibility over the years. The rest of the NBA can keep hoping for Lakers failures. Keep writing premature obituaries every time there's a minor setback or a temporary struggle. Keep predicting their downfall because it makes for good content and generates engagement. But meanwhile, Los Angeles will keep doing what they do best, winning, competing, and reminding everyone why they're the gold standard of professional basketball, why that purple and gold means more than any other uniform in the sport, and why being a Laker represents something that goes beyond wins and losses into the realm of legacy and greatness.